Shara writes and directs Nazi Supersoldier. And let me tell you, this one is no Red Skull. This puts the B in B-movie. So this is a 2024 German movie. And although it is a German movie, it is actually spoken in English language. And this is what appears to be a very kind of low budget, I guess you would call it slasher movie. Okay, so what's the story? It focuses on a group of kind of journalists and students who are going to investigate this apparent hidden lab in the middle of these woods in Germany, an old Nazi lab where the head of this expedition, so to speak, has found some secret documents on eBay, literally, and this leads him to this location within the forest. So they trot off there, but they are followed by a group of criminal types who are after one of the group. And they discover there is indeed a hidden laboratory, and it's not kind of abandoned. There is this experiment from the remnants of World War II, where the Nazis were experimenting, trying to create a super soldier, and they have effectively created this immortal killing machine who they've basically just kind of kept in suspended animation down there. But now he gets loose and wants to kill everyone. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, let's talk about it. What works in this movie's favour? Now, despite what I'm going to say in a minute, I actually still had a little bit of fun in this movie. Like I said, this is a B movie, pure and simple. It is silly, it doesn't make any sense, and we'll come on to some of those reasons why in a little bit. But it's silly in the way that it's kind of enjoyable. If you are a fan of B movies, and I'm sure some of this schlock was intentional, but I'm sure some of it wasn't. It has that sort of it's so ridiculous, it's so bonkers. There's an element of fun to be had with this, genuinely speaking. The performances are quite kind of well, they range really, and there's one I'll point out which is different to this, but some of them are a little over the top, but I kind of quite like their kind of enthusiastic, maybe overselling of some of the kind of the dialogue here, which kind of makes them sort of a group of sort of fun, sort of silly characters, but memorable to a degree. I quite like the kind of the setup. I mean, we've seen plenty of kind of Nazi zombies and things like this, whilst this one is more of a kind of a slasher. And they've got this really tall guy to play this kind of this killer. There's some interesting elements here, we have a prologue at the beginning where we see the sort of the experiment, and they say this guy they're experimenting on isn't actually German. He's actually a prisoner, with the idea that they're gonna kind of program him, but it kind of goes wrong even back then, and it gives it a sort of an interesting sort of mini backstory for this kind of killer, which gives you a little bit of empathy, perhaps. I mean, they don't do much with it, but there's a seed there of something interesting at the very least. There is some reasonable low-budget practical gore. I mean, the very kind of first kill that we see is this creature just pulling the head off one of the Nazis in the prologue, and you could have see his spine come out, and it's all low budget. I mean, it's sort of, not realistic, but it's kind of fun sort of practical effects and things like this. And the movie's not a long film, so it has a reasonable pace to it. There is a lot of running around in the woods, admittedly, but they're kind of being chased by this sort of ginormous guy in this kind of this mask. It's some fun there. And although I could have said some of the performances are very over the top, our lead character, who is this kind of student who ends up kind of going along because he kind of fancies one of the girls that are going in there, has a much more subdued sort of personality and is quite an introvert. And I actually kind of quite liked his character, because I actually felt he comes across as quite like a genuine sort of like introvert type who really has to be kind of pushed to be kind of quite sociable and things. And it's not, I don't think necessarily something that was done intentionally, but his character is so different from everyone else. It kind of stands out of being sort of quite an interesting character in his own right, without them necessarily like writing it necessarily like that. It's just how he sort of comes across, and his performance. I don't want to say that necessarily it was like great acting, but I just quite liked his character, because he just feels, as I say, quite different from the rest of the cast in the movie, who are kind of fun in their own right, but like I say, he just seems a little bit softer, a little bit more of a kind of an interesting and introspective kind of character in many ways. And I sort of quite liked it, I have to say. So that's what I can say that works in this movie's favour, along with the kind of the silly kind of sort of carnage that happens. What doesn't work? Okay, let's start at the very basics here. This is a German movie with German actors, for the most part, speaking English with German accents. I mean, I presume here that this was made to like appeal to like an American or English speaking audience. That's clearly the reason for it, like international sales. But I thought if they wanted to do that, fine, but at least have story reasons for it. I mean, even the Nazis in the World War II scene are speaking English to each other. You know, I mean, why not have like some of the characters in the kind of the modern era be like, you know, English or American students or something, so the rest of the characters are speaking English to them because they don't speak German or something like that. At least then there's a story reason why everyone is really sort of speaking English for like 95% of this movie. I mean, you know, it's a German film. I mean, there you go. So there's that. So straight away you are thinking, why are Germans speaking English in Germany? So that's the first thing. All right. The second thing is this movie really is very, very low budget. The lab, I mean, we see it in the prologue. It looks way too modern to be like, you know, 1940s Germany. And then we see in modern times when they discover this lab, I mean, it's pristine. There's no like dust or cobwebs anywhere, you know. So it's obviously like an in-use facility for something or other that they're just kind of like using for this abandoned, you know, Nazi lab or what have you. So they really haven't done much in the way of kind of like dressing up the kind of the location or the set or anything like that. Our killer, he's pretty interesting because he's like this tall guy. There's like an element of an interesting backstory, but he wears like this really uninspired mask. Why is he wearing a mask? I don't really know. Because I guess he wants to look like a slasher, I suppose. But it looks like the Man in the Iron Mask. It's like this really like bland, uninspired, plain looking mask. That really serves no purpose. It just, I don't know, it seems like a really weird, arbitrary choice to me. The bulk of the movie is like running around in the woods in quite low light, so it's hard to kind of see. We have this group of criminals, and we meant to believe there's like this large forest, and they're told that the guy they're after is in the forest, and that is literally all they're told, and yet somehow they run across them, you know. How this lab was discovered, when it looks like you could just run into people, you know, who knows. When on one hand they're saying it's like this massive forest, on the other hand you just happen to run into this other group of people without any other kind of directions other than they're in the forest, which makes me sound like it's going to be like a mile squared or something like that. Not even that. So yeah, it's, yeah, the setup isn't brilliant. I said the acting is enthusiastic, but it is by no means good. Maybe with the exception of our main guy, who I think borders on being okay. Now the problem here, I will defend the actors in one way, because you're clearly asking actors to speak and act in their not natural language, not their kind of home language or what have you. So everyone here is speaking in English, which is clearly not their first language. So as a result, I will give some sort of leeway, because I clearly think that's going to be a hard choice unless you're like a very experienced actor. But saying that, you know, do you care as a viewer that someone is acting in their second language? Probably not. So the acting is, on occasion, less than stellar, you might say. And as much as I think the setup, I was quite intrigued with. Once we get to the creature being released, it's just the guy in a mask running around with people in the woods. And that's it. And there's nothing really more to it than that, unfortunately. So the second half of the movie is far less interesting. Not that the first half was like this some sort of stellar, you know, great masterpiece, but, you know, I think it had some interesting elements. But the second half ultimately is just a sort of dull, low budget slasher movie that is particularly low light and sometimes kind of like questionable acting here, I have to say. So, you know, it's not a good movie by any means. There is some entertainment value if you don't mind low budget schlock, I will say that. But I have to wear my critical hat here and be honest and sort of, you know, transparent about the quality of this movie, generally speaking. And it isn't a good movie. I'll give it a 3 out of 10. So there are going to be pockets of you who may be entertained by this, but overall the movie is subpar. 3 out of 10. What were your thoughts if you've seen it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.
You guys are too much.
He's always like this. I'm like,